In 2018, at a really low point in my life and career, sitting in a hotel room in the middle of nowhere in Europe, I had this sobering realization that even though I had been working for over 5 years at that point, I had nothing to show for it other than burnout, depression, and a few $1,000s in my bank account lying completely mismanaged. At that point, I knew that something had to give, something had to change, something had to be fixed. And I've always been an ambitious person, not only ambitious for my career success, but also a successful life. Meaning that I wanted financial success, but I also wanted to have a happy, healthy life, an abundantly joyful life. And it is at that point I started reading and researching on how to be healthier, happier, and more successful. And everyone said that you needed to set goals. So I set up some goals. I didn't want to work beyond 7 p.m. every evening. I wanted a promotion and a 6-figure salary as soon as possible. And I wanted to be healthy, eat healthy, go to the gym, do all sorts of diets. Yet 1 year down, I did not see any results. It is at that point I asked one of my mentors, hey, what do you think I'm doing wrong? And they said, show me your systems. Systems? What are systems? Like computers? Like systems thinking? What are systems? What systems are they talking about? I had no idea. So they suggested that I read a couple of books. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg and The Atomic Habits by James Clear. And if you know James Clear, you will know that he clearly says that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that is when it hit me like a ton of bricks. You see, till that point in my life, I had goals, but I had systems making sure that I would achieve those goals. For example, when I wanted a consulting financial services job, I had done the hard work and put the system in place for actually getting a job like that. I already was studying financial services. I already had worked on my communication skills. Before that, I wanted to get into a top university, so I had done the groundwork and put in a system through which I would get into a top college. And yet, here I was, for the most important things in my life, I had set goals for, and I had no system. So in this episode, I want to talk about how I think about setting up systems in my life and how you can borrow from this and set up your systems that work for you. So get your pen and paper out and let's get started. The first thing to do is set up some goals. Yeah, goals are still important because without goals, you don't have a sense of direction of travel. So for example, if you don't know where you are traveling to, you might go for a drive and drive round and round without ever reaching your destination. So it's like putting the location on your Google Maps. You set the location, you set the direction of travel. You might take route A, route B, or route C to get there, but you still need to know where it is that you are going. For example, if you want a promotion, set that up as a goal. If you want a 6-figure salary, set it up as a goal. And then you will know that when it comes to actually getting a promotion, but maybe a lower salary, you might not want that. So setting up goals is tremendously important. But then what? That's only the first step in the process. The second step is to put together a strategy of how you'll go there, right? So this is figuring out your route from point A to point B. For example, if you want to travel from New York to San Fran, you can take a train, you can take a flight, or you can drive. Each of those are valid. However, while going from New York to San Francisco, if you are doing a charity fundraiser, you probably want to take the slowest route possible so that you can get the cheering crowd and you can fundraise from there. Whereas when you want to go from New York to San Fran as soon as possible for a business meeting, you are probably best off taking a flight. What is the strategy that you'll follow for getting from point A to point B? The third thing that you want to do is you commit to action. Goals or strategy is futile if you don't take action. So commit to taking action. And this is where you bring in a bit of a risk and reward. How do you treat yourself for taking action? And how do you not treat yourself, or how do you punish yourself for not taking action? This is a bit of that reward punishment cycle that you almost have to put into place for yourself, but commit to action. So for my YouTube channel, for example, I committed to action. I committed to recording at least one video a week. The next thing that you need to decide on is to decide a time and a day when that action happens, right? For example, for me, for my YouTube journey, that day was Friday, 4 p.m. Every Friday at 4 p.m., I will turn on my camera and record a video. This was my commitment. And that was the date and time I had set up for myself for performing that action. So set up a time and date in your calendar, because in my experience, whatever doesn't exist on my calendar does not exist. So put it on your calendar. The next thing to do is to try it out. And some people would suggest that you need to carry this on for 21 days. I would say that carry this on for 21 iterations, because sometimes this task or this activity that you have set up for yourself might not be daily. It might be weekly. It might be monthly. It might be yearly, but 21 years a bit far-fetched, but stay with me. Let's talk about 21 days or 21 weeks, or maybe 21 months even. I think the beauty of the 21 days is that it really shows you if this thing, this activity fits into your life. If you miss more than 80% of the time in your first 21 attempts at doing that activity, it probably does not fit into your life as it currently stands. You might need to change another chess piece somewhere else before you can put this into practice. One of the crazy hacks that I have found that seems to work for me is to tie up this new habit or new action with something that I am already habituated with. For example, when I was starting a practice of meditation, I just said that my morning routine involves waking up, brushing my teeth, getting showered and changed and everything. And then after shower, I'll meditate for 20 minutes. And everything else will be postponed by 20 minutes. It's fine. And that is when I realized that I actually started meditating regularly, because I tied my habit of meditation that I was wanting to build alongside a pre-existing habit that I already have in my life. So this is a little hack if you want to use it. But the next thing that I am going to say is actually super profound, and without doing this, I can guarantee that you are not going to be successful. I call this the ABC rule. A stands for action. So you have committed to take action and you took action, but you did not get the result, or you could not keep up with the action in the time frame that you had committed to. So what do? You start beating yourself up. All of us do that. But you immediately want to follow it on with something else. That's C, curiosity. Instead of beating yourself up, ask yourself, why is it that this did not work? Is it because I'm not committed to it? Am I not motivated to it? That's likely not the reason if you really want that goal in life. So it's likely something else that's causing the problem. So in the book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg mentions something very interesting about curiosity, which is get really curious about your surroundings. Are there people who are stopping you from doing that? Is there a limiting belief somewhere that is really difficult for you to get a handle over, that is not letting you perform that action? Did you get the timing completely wrong? For example, if you have to go into work at 9 a.m. and you are not a morning person, finding 20 minutes for your meditation in the morning might be really difficult. So understand your own patterns and work around yourself. It's not that you can't do it. It's just that it might require something else, a little bit of a tweak. Get curious. Get curious and ask yourself, what is it that needs to change for this system to work, instead of beating yourself up. And the final step is re-strategize. So once you have gone in with the curiosity and found out the reason behind why a particular strategy is not working, it's time to tweak your strategy. So re-strategize. and then repeat the entire set over. You still might find that there's something that's not quite working in the last piece, which is when you are taking action, you are not being able to be consistent with it. Ask yourself why. What is happening? What is stopping me from doing this thing every Monday or every morning? Keep a note of the recurring patterns in your day, and that way you will be able to identify what is it that is really causing the underlying issue. So what I realized about my terrible sugary breakfast habit is that I actually don't like sugary breakfast for that matter. But when I go into work, I just like to go into the Tesco because it helps me reframe into work mode before I go into work. So even though I have breakfast options at my work, I still go into the Tesco. So now that I have realized that pattern that I will go into that Tesco no matter what, I can talk myself out of buying an unhealthy breakfast. Instead, what I can do is set up a system. I always have yogurt and a banana for breakfast. That's a very simple system. Whenever I get hungry, I snack on yogurt. Brilliant system. It's giving your mind the fallback option, the healthier route that you can always borrow from when you know that you will always get hungry at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And here's a final pro tip. If you are trying to change more than 3 things in your life currently, please scale back. Try 1, 2, or a max of 3. Because if you try to change everything, your body goes into this panic mode and you end up being very haphazard about it. So try changing only a couple of things, and once you form that habit, once you get that system in your life, move on to the next one. So that's all I have to say about my goal setting system and how to achieve goals that you truly want out of your life. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing because it does help us out a lot. And if you are new here, I talk a lot about money, careers, and habits. You might find these videos that I'll leave up on the screen interesting. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time. Bye.